Buonasera e grazie di essere qui. È un grande onore per me essere stata invitata a parlarvi degli attentati dinamitari di Dublino e Monaghan. Siamo qui oggi per riflettere sulle stragi che 50 anni fa hanno colpito la città di Dublino e Monaghan e Piazza della Loggia qui a Brescia. Our victim support organisation, Justice for the Forgotten, was formed in 1996, and we now advocate for many victims' families in the Republic of Ireland. And since 2010, we have been affiliated with the reputable human rights organisation, the Pat Finucane Centre, based in Derry, Belfast and Armagh. The political context in which the Dublin and Monaghan bombings took place was as follows. A power-sharing executive had been established in Northern Ireland in January 1974, which included nationalist politicians as well as unionists. It was the first time since the partition of Ireland and the foundation of the Northern Ireland state that nationalists were to be included in governing Northern Ireland. The Ulster Workers' Council, a right-wing coalition which represented all strands of loyalist and most unionist elements, called an all-out strike of key workers, particularly in the power stations, which began on the 15th of May with the sole aim of bringing down the power-sharing executive. The Dublin-Monaghan bombings were carried out on the third day of the strike. The Ulster Workers' Council succeeded in bringing down the power-sharing executive through intimidation and because of the unwillingness of the British government to confront the strikers. It collapsed on the 28th of May, coincidentally the same day that the Piazza della Loggia was bombed. Friday the 17th of May 1974 was a fine sunny afternoon with the promise of summer in the air. The citizens of Dublin were going about their daily business, shopping, meeting friends or making their way home from work. A number of young women were on their way to the railway station to catch trains to various parts of the country for the weekend. Then, with no warning, at 5:28 p.m. precisely, the first bomb exploded in Parnell Street in the North City Centre. 11 people were killed in that bombing, including a young couple and their two baby daughters, 17-month-old Jacqueline and 5-month-old Anne-Marie. An Italian citizen, a native of Casalatico, Frosinone, Antonio Nalgoro, was also killed in the blast. About 2 minutes after the first explosion, a second bomb detonated in Talbot Street, which runs parallel to Parnell Street in the North City Centre. 14 people perished in this blast, including a young woman of 21 who was 9 months pregnant. Her full-term unborn baby also died, while her 2-year-old daughter survived, and a young French woman, Simone Chetrid, who had just completed an English language course in Dublin and was about to return home to Paris the following day. Her flight ticket was in her pocket. Ernie McNally, who is here with us this evening, was seriously injured. Almost simultaneously with the second bomb, a third exploded in the South City Centre, close to the Irish Parliament, Dáil Éireann, and beside the wall of Dublin University, Trinity College. 2 women were killed in this explosion, including Christina O'Loughlin, whose son Kevin is here with us this evening. At least 250 people were injured to varying degrees, while many more were to suffer serious psychological trauma as a result of what they witnessed that day. About an hour and a half later, at 6:58 p.m, a fourth no-warning bomb exploded outside a busy public house in the centre of Monaghan town, which is close to the border with Northern Ireland. A further 7 people were killed in Monaghan, 1 woman and 6 men. A loyalist paramilitary organisation, the Ulster Volunteer Force, planted the bombs but claimed responsibility only 19 years later, after the broadcasting in July 1993 of a British documentary about the bombing's hidden hand to the forgotten massacre. They claimed they had acted alone. The loyalists claimed they had acted alone in contradiction of what was claimed in the documentary. Ironically, legislation to legalise the organisation had been enacted in both houses of the British Parliament on the 14th and 15th of May 1974, which was due to take effect from the 23rd of May. Despite the bombings and the knowledge of the British government as to the perpetrators, the legislation was permitted to come into effect on the due date. The panel has been requested this evening to reflect on key issues that bear similarities, specifically the strategy of tension. Specifically, if the strategy of tension can be applied to the Dublin and Monaghan bombings as it is to the Piazza della Loggia bombing. Strategy of tension is, as you know, an Italian term and is identified with the years of lead between 1968 and 1982, a period of political violence and social upheaval in Italy. The term was first used after the Piazza Fontana bombing in Milan in December 1969. During the 1970s, the Communist Party in Italy was at its most powerful, and Western governments feared they would come to power. So the strategy of tension was applied, the intention of which was to create an atmosphere of widespread fear among the population, which was implemented through terrorist acts. These acts were intended to destabilise and cause insecurity in the population, so that a desire for a stronger, more authoritarian government would emerge and prevent the communists from gaining power. In Northern Ireland at that time, there was a fear that the new Labour government might be moving towards a united Ireland, and that the power-sharing assembly and proposed Council of Ireland might be a first step along that road. Clearly, the intention of the Dublin Monaghan attack was to cause instability and fear among the population of the Republic of Ireland and to contribute to the collapse of the Northern Ireland Assembly, which the Ulster Workers' Council succeeded in doing, not just by the bombings, but more importantly by the general strike. The importance of the bombings was to warn the Irish government against interfering in the affairs of Northern Ireland. The Piazza della Loggia bombing was carried out by the Ordine Nuovo, while the Dublin and Monaghan bombings were perpetrated by the Ulster Volunteer Force. No warnings were given in any of the attacks. The important question is, were these groups acting alone or did they have assistance? In Piazza della Loggia, you now have clear evidence that one of those convicted, Maurizio Tramonte, was an agent of the intelligence services. When Tramonte and Carlo Maria Maggi were convicted in 2015 and their convictions upheld in 2017, this was regarded as an historic verdict because it was the first time that the Ordine Nuovo was so clearly linked with the intelligence services and both together linked to the 1970s far-right violence. It was declared that Maggi had ordered the bombing while Tramonte helped to organise it and put police off the trail. In 2000, an Italian report claimed that there was US intelligence involvement, that US intelligence agents were informed in advance about several right-wing terrorist bombings, including the Piazza Fontana bombing in Milano and the Piazza della Loggia bombing in Brescia, but did nothing to alert the Italian authorities or to prevent the attacks from taking place. It also alleged that Pino Rauti, a journalist and founder of the Ordine Nuovo, was in the pay of the American Embassy in Rome. There have been 2 convictions for the Piazza della Loggia bombing, and I understand the trial of 2 other individuals is expected in coming months, but it seems to me that these are all just the puppets and not the puppet masters. In terms of Dublin Monaghan, there have been no charges brought against anyone, much less convictions. Although the attack was ostensibly carried out by the Ulster volunteer force, there is a substantial amount of information from a number of whistleblowers suggesting that British intelligence agents were involved in assisting with or even directing the operation. Loyalist organisations have never before or since succeeded in carrying out an equivalent attack. Dublin and Monaghan is believed to be linked to many other cases in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which resulted in at least 127 deaths. The link is that the perpetrators were part of the same group, which have been given the name the Glenarm Gang. Although there have been no convictions for Dublin and Monaghan, nor are there likely to be any in the future, the Dublin and Monaghan families have always had their focus on obtaining the truth about what happened. Who ordered it? How high up did it go in terms of the British authorities? In terms of the current avenues open to us, we have two separate investigations which are nearing completion and are expected to report in the coming months. The first is an investigation by the Police Ombudsman for Northern Ireland, who is investigating all these linked cases for wrongdoing by the police. This work has been ongoing for several years and we eagerly await its outcome. The second came about because it was ordered by the High Court in Belfast. It was initially appealed by the Chief Constable of the Police Service of Northern Ireland. However, the Northern Ireland Court of Appeal rejected the Chief Constable's appeal and held in July 2019 that the families had a legitimate expectation that an independent police team would carry out the investigation and report on its findings. As a result, what is known as Operation Denton was established in December 2019 and terms of reference were agreed. It too is nearing completion and we expect its report to be published in the first quarter of 2025. The officer in charge of this review insists that he is getting access to all relevant records, including those of the UK Security Service, MI5, and the UK Ministry of Defence and PSNI. The third and final avenue is that Dublin and Monaghan families are currently taking a civil case in the High Court in Belfast. This type of case involves suing the UK government for causing death and injuries and claiming compensation. The main purpose of taking this case is hopefully to gain access to records not previously released so that more information becomes available. We have been thwarted for several years by the UK government, who has been trying to stop the families gaining access to the court in Belfast on jurisdictional and time limit grounds. We have, however, overcome the last obstacle to that and now await a date for when our case will be heard. Il nostro auspicio oggi è che I familiari delle vittime della strage di Piazza della Loggia ottengano presto I risultati meritati. Alla vigilia del 50° anniversario della strage di Piazza Loggia vogliamo ricordare I nomi delle vittime: Giulietta Banzi Basoli, Livia Bottardi Milani, Eoclo Natali, Luigi Pinto, Bartolomeo Talenti, Alberto Trebeschi, Clementina Canzari Trebeschi, Vittorio Zambarda. Grazie a tutte e a tutti quali.
Grazie a Margaret per questa ricostruzione molto accurata, molto precisa, non solo del contesto, diciamo, stregista irlandese, ma anche di quello italiano, in particolare di quello bresciano.